All right, so I've rarely do album reviews. I think the last album review I did was for Mac Miller's album Circles, and it's sad that this album's in the same vein. So I'm gonna be reviewing Juice World's Legends Never Die, which came out the 10th of this month, and how this album affected me. And I'm taking I'm literally making a video during my break because this album needs to be heard, and I really want to shout this album from the rooftops to people who suffer from depression and anxiety and drug addiction. This album is a fantastic album for that. It's wonderful. So, to give a little backstory, Juice World passed away last year due to a drug overdose. And I find it weird that he died a year after Mac Miller, which was also due to a drug overdose. And both artists have had significant impacts on my life in terms of how I went through things. But with Mac Miller, you really never could tell if he was depressed or not. His music, and not until recently, his music was always upbeat and happy, talking about money, fame, girls, and all this happy stuff. It wasn't until later you found out that he was going through some shit. You mainly found out in his album Swimming, and especially in his last album Circles, which to me was a masterful album. If you haven't listened to it, you really need to check out Circles. But with Juice World, you always knew he was dealing with something. Even with his first album, Goodbye, Good Riddance, you knew that something was going on, and he would always rap about heartbreak, drugs, depression, anxiety, um, and he doesn't glorify drugs. That's what I like about him. Mac Miller may have glorified drugs early on in his career, but later on he did say, it was going to wind up killing him, and it did. With Juice, he did drugs to numb the pain, which is what I did. Juice WRLD suffered from depression and anxiety, and he used drugs to cope with it. And he used his music and drugs. And unfortunately, the drugs got a hold of him and wound up taking his life. And it sucks because he had so much potential. He was such an amazing artist. He rapped about stuff that was from the heart and was not bullshit. He rapped what was on his mind, and he didn't care what anyone thought. People say that he glorified drugs on his songs. I disagree. He was demonizing them and using himself as an example of how harmful these drugs can be to someone. He, in a song in this new album, he actually says, "If I wasn't on drugs, I wouldn't be here. But if I keep doing these drugs, I'm not going to be here." So he's basically he was stuck in a predicament because drugs was a major part of his music. He tried to get through to people about drug addiction through his songs and how it's not the right way to cope with it because they can grab a hold of you. At the same time, he knew it was slowly killing him, but he couldn't stop. He in the album, this new album, Legends Never Die, he said he cried for help, begged for help, and no one listened. And I'm just gonna tell you this: listening to Legends Never Die by Juice WRLD reminds me of the headspace I was going through when I was taking drugs. It reminds me of that headspace. I knew I was slowly killing myself, but I knew the risk because I just wanted the pain to go away, and that's what he wanted. He knew that doing these songs, he was saving people. At the same time, he was killing himself. He knew this. He mentions it several times in this album that he knew that people, he was saving lives. People would message him saying that his music saved their lives, and at the same time he was killing himself because he couldn't let go of that addiction. Juice WRLD had so much potential. I could he To me, he's already a legend in my book. The three albums he's done have all been phenomenal. Goodbye and Good Riddance, Death Race for Love, and Legends Never Die have been phenomenal albums. And to me, Legends Never Die is my favorite, and I'm gonna explain why. So, in the same vein as Mac Miller's Circles, this album is mainly about struggling, and it has the same theme as Circles, except this album is longer than Circles. Circles is kind of a short but sweet. Like, it has a nice opening and a nice conclusion to me. It's like Mac Miller's album is a story, but Juice's is also they're both like story albums to me. Each one going over their thought process through everything, how drugs are killing them, and how depression really fucks with someone, and how fame isn't all what it's cracked up to be. It's about how money will never buy you happiness, and how fame will never bring you happiness. But I think both albums capture that message beautifully. They capture the message of someone struggling with these addictions and these problems very poetically. And just like Mac Miller's Circles album, there is foreshadowing of his own death. There is actually foreshadowing. If you listen to the entirety of the album, he does predict his own death. He's like, I know I'm not going to be here much longer, or I know if I keep taking these drugs, it's going to wind up killing me soon, or, while I'm still here, shit like that. Basically the same thing with the song Everybody, and not my That's On Me, and Good News, where Mac Miller was basically, the entirety of Mac Miller's Circles album was basically like a giant foreshadowing of his own death when he was writing it. And Juice's album's the same way. There is interludes in there of him spreading the message of, yeah, all this money is just materialistic things, but people aren't speaking about the real problems, substance abuse, anxiety, depression, that's what people know. That's what money can't fix. That's what money can't help fix. That's something that you gotta work on. And if I cried in this review, I'm sorry. This album made me cry. There's an interlude where artists were basically saying, Juice has such this amazing talent. He would write the lyrics the way he felt. And it would usually take 4 minutes, and then he'd go in the studio, record it twice, and pick which one had the best vibe to it. He was a true talent. He really loved the craft. He loved making music. He says that numerous times in this album that he used his music as a getaway from the pain, and unfortunately it wasn't enough for him. That's why he did drugs. It wasn't enough. The songs on this, there's not one song I would take out. The track listing on this album is perfect. It tells a story. Same thing with Mac Miller's Circles album. This album tells a story, and it does a good job of that. There are songs where he's sending a message to his fans, his girlfriend. It sounds like he's talking to a therapist on one of his songs. There's not one song I would remove. And if the rumors are true that he has 1,000 more songs in a digital vault, this is not the last we're going to see of Juice WRLD. And I know Juice WRLD never put out like shoddy songs, so if they're going to keep doing albums like this, they gotta do it the same way they did Legends Never Die. Be respectful about it. I supported the album because I knew the pain Juice was going through. It's never easy getting over an addiction, and it's not. It's one of the hardest things you can ever fucking do. And mix that together with depression and anxiety, and it's like one big clusterfuck. Because if you're just taking drugs to have fun, that's one thing, but people, including myself, we use drugs to numb pain, and that's what Juice was doing. He wasn't doing it to flex. He wasn't doing it to say, hey, I've taken this drug, I've taken that drug. He was saying, I needed help, and this was the only way I saw help, was numbing the pain. Where he screamed, there's a song where he said, I screamed for help, but no one listened. And I know that feeling very fucking much. The same thing with Mac Miller's album. He said people don't want to hear the bad news, they only want to hear the good news. And that's very true. This man has been screaming, Juice WRLD's been screaming for help ever since Goodbye and Good Riddance. He's been screaming for help. I actually went back to listen to both his albums, and there were songs where he's legit screaming for help. There were songs where he doesn't know what to do anymore. And listening to Legends Never Die and going back and listening to Goodbye and Good Riddance and listening to Death Race for Love, it's... You really do not understand that in his albums he was asking for help. I feel really bad for his girlfriend. She lost an amazing person, and I hope she makes it through okay. Because in his music he never rapped about fucking other women. He rapped about her. He rapped about his problems, and he didn't even want to flex. He was rapping about how money doesn't mean anything. It's materialistic. He rapped about shit that was on his mind, which is not a lot you can say about other rappers. He was one of the unique ones where he would rap about what's on his mind, and he wouldn't care. He just wanted to speak from his heart. There's no negatives I have with this album. There's only positives. The production sounds amazing. The track listing is phenomenal. And the message and storytelling on this album is absolutely beautiful. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give Juice WRLD's Legends Never Die a 10 out of 10. The same score I gave to Mac Miller's Circles. I recommend both these albums if you're really looking for... If you ever wanted to know how my headspace was when I was a drug addict, Circles and Legends Never Die, especially Legends Never Die, will give you a basic description of what my headspace was like. As someone with depression, anxiety, and who was a drug addict. So I would highly recommend you guys check out the album on Spotify or buy it. It's definitely worth a listen. Go on YouTube and listen to the full album. It's a phenomenal album, and it's one I'm probably going to keep listening to forever. And if they're going to keep releasing Juice WRLD songs and make new albums, don't do it the way they did XX Tentacion. Just please be respectful about it, and make sure the money goes towards his family or his girlfriend or something. Make sure it goes to a good cause, because that's something that Juice WRLD would have wanted. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you guys when my break's over.